Hello, YouTube! Welcome in. We are watching the most forgotten D&D monster of all time, and I take great offense to that. Slimes are wonderful little creatures. Everything from the little goobers from Dragon Quest to the Grimers, to Rimuru off to the right here, who's taking my shtick. To the gelatinous cube, I see you up in the top right corner. Don't you worry about that, buddy. I know you exist. But yes, we're going to watch The Pointy Hat, who's another new channel that we're going to be checking out every now and then. Pointy Hat's really good. They do a lot of stuff similar to Dungeon Dad, but they encompass more than just monsters. They encompass more of the mechanical side of things. So new classes, new races. Sometimes they even put out storylines. They are most famous for the Witch Lich, where they made a Lich monster and a Lich type character story for every class, barbarian included. There's a barbarian Lich that this wonderful little hat has made. So maybe we'll go check those out in the future, but for today, we're going to learn about the Slimes. So let's get to watching.
Hello.
Hello.
Gax. There's a Dungeons & Dragons monster that has changed the face of gaming and popular culture dramatically. It has been imitated and iterated on for decades by countless games, books, and movies.
And VTubers. There's a lot of us.
And yet, it remains effectively on the D-list of D&D.
Lady Gaga, hi, I'm Ooze from the game Dungeons and Dragons. Just want to tell you I love you and your music and all you stand for in New York City. To hope to meet you.
Creatures. Other than the mimic, oozes have had the biggest impact on the fantasy genre. And yet,
also, I am noticing that the volume is actually blowing out my ears this time.
They have failed to reach the heights of popularity that those that came after them and copied them have. How did oozes become so influential? Why did they never manage to leave a mark in the game that birthed them equal to their mark on the gaming landscape? And
I think it mostly stems from the fact that they are designed to be unintelligent creatures just by default. But yeah, I think it literally is because they're designed to be kind of like more of a minion monster and not like a big bad style of monster.
And more importantly, how do we fix that? We're gonna analyze oozes, their history, and we're gonna make a brand new one to give them their very well-deserved time in the spotlight in this gloopy, oopy, droopy, and drippy edition of D&D with a Twist.
Yeah! Welcome to D&D with a Twist, everybody. Once again, great stuff. Go check out their stuff.
Part 1. What even is an ooze?
Goopy stuff. Goopy stuff that wants to eat you.
This is such a good name for it, though. You know when things sound like what they're supposed to be? Ooze.
Yeah.
Sounds gross. Anyway, they are gross. And ooze is a D&D monster type, and one of the most ignored ones at that. Most monster types are based on where the monster comes from, like their mystical origins. Fae are Fae because they come from the Feywild, Fiends come from the lower planes of darkness and evil, and dragons come from the ampersand. Oozes
They come from the ampersand, of course.
Are the exception to this, and things get into the ooze category by being, hard to look at. No. Their primary trait is being
Am I hard to look at, guys? I don't think so.
amorphous. Speaking of words that sound like what they are. If you look at something and the first word that comes to mind is blob, it's probably an ooze. I would also
Yep. No, you a cutie. Very. Wait. Vorpal, I'm going to assume that you're yes-anding to Coco, even though it was extremely fast after. Rude ass.
argue that brainless and instincts-driven are also up there in the ooze category. It's best to
Not really instinct-driven, because you need to have a brain in order to have instincts, right? So it's more of just like wander around and hope things fall into your path that you want to eat.
think of them as bacteria. You're not dealing with a brain, not even an animal one. Their behavior is just hard-coded into them. So, an ooze is an unthinking, goobly thing driven by the most basic form of instinct. And these are all ingredients we will be using later to cook up our own ooze. So pay attention. There are, of course, exceptions to this. So since we're talking about it, and we gotta figure out how these guys spread their pseudopods all over gaming, let's see what are some of the biggest and baddest oozes on offer at the D&D Slime YouTube Short, Instagram Reel, TikTok brain-rotted content farm.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of these pop up on my feed recently. I'm not surprised, considering my kind of content, being that I'm a slime. But, you know, is what it is.
And you know what happens in this channel when it's time to list stuff and read things. Human familiar!
Human familiar!
It's Slime Time Live. Also,
It's prime time for slime time. That's what my go live notification is. Yeah.
I moved. Could you tell? The audio is probably echoey because I have no furniture. Enjoy that. I'm trying my best. Be nice. It has not been fun. It's just gonna look funky for a while. Or should I say, slimy?
Eh.
Or shouldn't. I shouldn't say that. Number A. Gelatinous cube.
Oh, he knows how to count proper. Yep, it's all good.
Let's start with the big boys. The closest thing that the Ooze family has to a poster boy, a flagship monster, is the rectangle girl of the world here.
Rectangle girls of the world!
If you ask someone to name D&D oozes, they'll say Gelatinous Cube instantly, and then maybe they'll take like 2 minutes to remember the Oblex, coming up by the way, and then they won't be able to say anything else at all. Or maybe Plasmoids. Anyway, Gelatinous Cubes are your prototypical cube.
No, the very first one that will always pop up is the gelatinous cube, and that's pretty much where it stops for the majority of people. The Ooblex, probably not even on most people's radar. The Plasmoid, definitely not on most people's radar. A little bit more because it became a player race for 5e, but still not a very popular thing. The only other creature that could potentially hold a candle to the gelatinous cube would be jellies. Ochre jelly, for instance, black pudding, those types of guys. Because those have actually been like in every single monster manual for a very long time.
No, Gelatinous Cubes are your prototypical ooze. On thinking, check. On feeling, check. Driven by a primordial instinct without the need of a brain or a nervous system, check. The best way to describe Gelatinous Cubes is that it's a 10 by 10 cube of awful. They are quite literally made of acidic jello, and their only purpose is to consume any and all organic matter. Their origins are
Like me!
complicated, but like in a fun way. They date all the way back to AD&D. These guys have been a staple of the game from its inception. I swear I read somewhere that Gary Gygax created these guys because without them, dungeons wouldn't make sense. Think about it. In a dungeon, monsters kill monsters. Adventurers kill monsters. Monsters kill adventurers, if you're unlucky, and adventurers kill other adventurers if your DM allows PvP and has a death wish. And that is just a whole lot of corpses just left to decompose. Without scavengers, that is a very, very slow process. Gelatinous Cubes are there to explain why all these 10 by 10 corridors are so squeaky clean. Their amoeba programming makes them advance through these 10 by 10 corridors, consuming any and all organic matter that they ever come across with their acidic jello of doom. I do have...
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like Coco says, goblin cleanup, but you're a slime. That's why we need a slime cleanup game. I think that would be great. That'd be funny. And not like in Goblin Cleanup where you're using a slime as a mop. Rude asses. It was an actual cleanup game where you're a slime and you're actually having to go around and actually like eat up all the blood and the corpses and stuff like that and sit on them for a bit. That'd be good. I agree. But yeah, that's actually literally the entire design for my character, right? That's my character's entire backstory is I am the dungeon Roomba. I clean up the dungeon of all the bodies and stuff like that, leaving just skeletons and loot. So that, you know, the owner of the dungeon can then raise the skeletons for his undead army and use the loot to bait in more adventurers to make more skeletons later. It's a fun cycle. But then I ate my boss.
To wonder if this is the result of like actually Gary Gygax into coming up with one of the most iconic D&D monsters, or at least one of the most original ones, just to justify gameplay needs. Although if you think about it, bones are mostly inorganic material, so Gelatinous Cubes shouldn't be that good at... Oh god, I am that. I am the pedant now. I am the problem. Anyway.
Yep. And see, that's why I always also say the bones don't go away from me. I leave the bones behind. And the bones get raised as skeletons. And that's where they go. And they go into another army. That's why the Discord is called the Necropolis.
Although I could have sworn that I read this, I could not find it again for the research of this video. If you have any sources, like real sources, not I remember it too, let me know. Let me know if you remember it too, though. Did I hallucinate this? Comment below. Or gaslight me. For fun. I am so uncomfortable.
They're a different type of organic material. They're a different type. They're more calcium based. It's a different type of like disintegration required.
Guys, look at my chair.
Also, I'm not a scientist. I did not take much of science in the past, so I don't know things.
So bad. Oh, and if you're wondering from the Eberron video, I did not get my deposit back.
Oh, buddy.
Like and subscribe. Okay, that's enough of the meta origins. What about in-lore reasons as to why we have...
Never actually watched his Neberon video. Maybe we'll check that out later.
sentient jello. Barely sentient
Yeah, don't like calcium. I like milk, actually, but, you know, not hard calcium.
jello. Well, these are not as fun. I found the channel's least favorite. A wizard did it. As in, a wizard conjured up a magic Roomba because they didn't feel like cleaning. This
Yeah.
kind of checks out. If I had to pick up a class that is least likely to clean after themselves, I would pick wizards.
100%. Barbarians up there too, but I mean, like, that's kind of their whole shtick. Wizards, they don't got time for that. Ain't got no time for that. Just throw it in the slime hole.
have lived with academics before. Bad times. They always act like doing the dishes will cost them their thesis. It's awful. Other than that, we have another option. According to self-published author extraordinaire, owner of the worst possible laugh alive, and also user of about 49 pen names, Tasha the Witch.
Who probably has the most popular book in all of D&D 5e, let's be perfectly honest. What do you mean? Yeah, what part are you talking about there, Coco? The whole, like, me agreeing that wizards would probably be the ones? Yeah, no, it would be wizards. Ain't got no time for that shit.
The Jello Square of Doom and Torment comes in fact directly from Joeyblex. The Demon Prince put a pin on it, we'll talk about it later. This kind of checks out since, like, we know that Joeyblex produces more ooze and controls them, and gives them sentience. As I said, we'll talk about it later. Anyway, yes, this checks out, but this is Tasha saying it. Tasha under her pen name, Iggy Azalea, in a book called
Azalea.
called The Demonomicon. And one thing about Tasha that you need to understand is that if she has the opportunity to talk about a demon, she will. So I take this with a grain of salt, but you do you. Mechanically, the Gelatinous Cube is a classic for a reason. It makes for a really fun and different combat encounter. It did so more when the game was like dungeon crawling 24/7, which it hasn't been for a minute now. And it did so more when the Gelatinous Cube was a brand new concept that people weren't expecting. This is the troll problem all over again. People know.
So there was a while back, there was an encounter that was pitched by another group. I can't remember what their group name is off the top of my head. I will pin it I will post a link somewhere in the video, but they posted a combination of like random monsters that you wouldn't expect would work well together, but do really work very well together. And that would be the Gelatinous Cube, or really any ooze for the most part, and the Clay Golem. And the reason being is that the Clay Golem is not only immune to acid damage, but regenerates from acid damage. I took that and cranked it up to fucking 11. I made a maze level for D&D once, right? Just this big maze. And all the floors were basically like iron plates, like 10 by 10 iron plates. Sitting atop like this radiant glowing like goo. It was a gigantic gelatinous cube holding up this entire room pretty much. It was legitimately just designed in order to, you know, for a specific puzzle. Did you make a Tomb of Annihilation? I might have made a Tomb of Annihilation. But the idea is you need to work your way through this maze. And the entire while, if you stay too long on a piece of the iron plate, it starts to sink. And the more weight that's on the plate, the less time you have on the plate, right? And all the while, there is a clay golem chasing your ass with the sole intent to grab you and hold you in place until you sink into the jello below. And there are multiple spots throughout the maze where the clay golem can then just walk around and come back up onto the plates and start moving around to try and find you again. And that's the entire idea for the maze. I want to retry that again because it was one of my first times DMing when I ran that encounter, and it was so good. I love that encounter so much. But yeah, it was fun. It kept people having to move. It kept them in a terrifying state. And if the golem took too much damage, all it had to do was just sink into the into the Jello, heal up, and then be right back to work.
A DM that is like introducing a gelatinous cube is supposed to mention how like this section of dungeon is spotless, like with nary a speck of dust. Wait, is dust organic? Let me check. Okay, it says here that outdoor dust is mostly inorganic, but indoor dust is mostly organic on account of like it coming from like the dead cells.
Yeah. By the way, dust in a house is usually actually made from human.
I'm being pedantic again. Whatever, choose the one that feels more natural. The dungeon is spotless, as if all the very organic dust has been swept away. Then you see like a floating skeleton making its way to you. Or like a treasure chest, or a sword and a shield. And guess what? That's the gelatinous cube. That's the gelatinous cube coming over to vacuum you to death. In a stunning example of art straight up ignoring the most important part of a monster, the gelatinous cube itself is meant to be basically invisible. No, it does not look like the Minecraft version of Flubber, not even a little bit. You're supposed to have a hard time even discerning that it's coming towards you. Like DC 15 perception check to notice it's actually there. In combat, it's genius in its simplicity. Very few monsters use the tactics of
just I fucking love that scene. But yeah, no, I also use this one in a different game. I love using slimes. I've always loved using slimes in D&D. I actually gave the party one time one of my parties a partially sentient itty bitty slime that acted kind of like almost dog-like and was helping them get through get them through a sewer. And then it brought them all the way to the end of the sewer, but there were a whole bunch of floating coins just at the base of the ladder to get out of the sewer. And they were like, "Huh, what's going on there?" And they asked the little slime, "Hey, you've been, helping us with everything up till this point. Can you go grab us one of those gold pieces?" So the slime scoots over. It's a slime. It's immune to acid. It goes into the gelatinous cube and just kind of swims straight up, grabs a piece of gold, and comes right back. And they were like, "Okay." One of my players knew damn well exactly what it was, but him being a good sport was like, "Well, I mean, it looks safe. It must be just, suspended, maybe magic or something." Goes in and instantly starts to get dissolved by the gelatinous cube. He knew damn well what was happening. He was just being a good sport and being a player and being like, "My character doesn't know what's happening. We're just going to do it." And I was like, "Yay, thank you."
The cube. It's a grabber and a passive damage dealer. Once again, very few monsters inflict damage this way or do grabbing mechanics. And real talk, at gelatinous
Human familiar takes a 10-second pause to absorb a thought.
A gelatinous cube can make for a really mean death spiral. A death spiral is not just a metal band that a 15-year-old name in an attempt to seem cool. Actually, it's a game design term. Again, I tricked you. A death spiral happens when...
Oh, that's right. I should also mention, he works in game design as an illustrator. And a few other, does a lot of other things for game design. So, he knows his shit when it comes to this sort of stuff.
A player fails a test, and now that player is more likely to fail the same test again when they try again. And in a true death spiral, it makes it so that it's even more likely for them to fail a third time, and so on and so forth until they die.
Yeah.
Yep. That's why the 15-year-old game designer called it a death spiral. The gelatinous cube can very easily put your players or you in this. Let's say that you don't spot it because it's a 15 perception and it's a low CR, so it's very likely that you don't. And it just so happens that the most
Dark Souls entirety? Yes and no. So Dark Souls is designed to kick your ass, but it tells you that right out the gate. You are going to die. So it takes that death spiral and then flips it on its head in a little bit to try and be like, think outside the box, figure out a different way of doing it. What you're doing is not working. You're going to have to either try or keep learning the fight. So that's why the death spiral in Dark Souls is different than this kind of death spiral. This one is just like you fall into a gelatinous cube. Okay, we need to get you out of the gelatinous cube. We're not passing any of the checks in order to pull you out, and he died. Okay, now we need to try and get away from this thing. We don't have anywhere to go. Oh, it grabbed another person. Okay, can we heal them? Yeah, we can heal them, but it's not going to do much. We need to get him out. And the person that actually got grabbed was our barbarian. And he can't get out. He's nat 1ing all of his checks, and he's dead. Okay, well, now we're down to 2 people. We need to try to get out of here, and the cleric's grabbed. And now we're down a healer. All we have left is a rogue. And the rogue got grabbed. And there it is.
Most physically strong party
Yeah.
member was going first, which is often the case, which means that is the player that gets engulfed by the cube by failing a saving throw. That party member takes damage every turn now, and has disadvantage on the check to get out of the cube.
Yep.
That means that they're less likely to escape the grasp of the cube than they were before. And it just kind of takes your party not having more than one strength-based character, which happens often because nerds like spellcasters better, to make
Well, it's not just the liking spellcasters better. It's a lot of people also don't like having overlapping traits. If you have like a barbarian and a fighter, those two people are going to be fighting over the same type of equipment more often. Same with more so like paladin and fighter than barbarian and fighter, but it's usually going to happen. So you take if you have a barbarian in your team and you want to have a fighter, well, you're going to make that other fighter a Dexidin or a Dex fighter. Or an archer. And that's not going to be helpful. You usually only need one strength-based person. If you have a cleric, you can usually, spec them in a little bit into strength, but you're going to be focusing more on your charisma and wisdom. Where's the enhanced strength spells? Well, the problem with that is you are a low-level adventurer. Gelatinous cubes are only like a CR 2 or 3. And they're always looked at as like a joke monster. Dungeon Master, I put a bag of holding in another bag of holding. Well, roll up new characters. Challenge rating is like, it always is. It always is.
the Gelatinous Cube, the end of your campaign. Be careful when using Minecraft Flubber. I am not joking. Passive damage is one of the easiest ways to kill a PC in D&D. Ask me how I know. The passive damage that the low poly GAC deals is acid damage, which is it the least common type of damage? It feels like it. Hold on, let me use my pedantic powers for good. Okay, so according to this post by user Yorin, and this is from 2014, so these numbers will be different now. Acid is only more common than Force, Psychic, and Thunder. And Thunder being the rarest one among those four. Neat. Anyway, it is pretty rare. How much is gianttip.com user Yorin to be trusted? I don't know. Did I check myself? Absolutely not. But it kind of checks out. The only thing that gave me pause is Psychic being that low. It just feels like nowadays you see Psychic damage flying around all the time. So
That's why I remember it's from 2014. They changed a lot of damage types to like in 2024 to have more Psychic and Force damage because those were very underutilized abilities. And I believe there's also more ways to kind of like interchange acid and poison, which I think is kind of silly, but makes sense at the same time.
I actually went and checked if this happened on the spell side of things for players. Like if players are more
Can I use my charisma stat or lack thereof to inflict psychic damage with cringe? So I'd be a monster.
likely to deal acid or psychic damage. And guess what? According to D&D Beyond user DM Thaco,
These are spells that do a particular damage type. It's probably not inclusive, but should give you answer. Probably alter the list. There are 31 spells that do fire damage, 20 spells, 2 of those are overlapping, by the way, that do bludgeoning. Or, sorry, 1 of those at least is overlapping. 20 spells that do cold, 15 that do lightning, 12 that do radiant, only 11 that do acid, piercing, or thunder, 10 that do necrotic. Wow, necrotic's that low on the list? You would expect with, necromancy being such a high popularity spell type, there would be more necrotic spells. Huh.
is wrong. There are more acid damaging spells than psychic ones. Once again, feels wrong. But this is, once again, from 2018, so things might have changed. Maybe after this video I'll check. As I... way to have a place to sleep in.
Whoops.
If this video has 7 trillion billion views, I'll check. Yeah? So, share it. Or whatever. This is how YouTubers can get big. I bet it. This is strats.
He looks so tired. I've actually fallen off of his videos a little while ago. I just got really busy with everything else and stopped watching his stuff. We should really watch more of his stuff, but he looks so tired right now. Poor guy.
This is the new meta. Anyway, the Gelatinous Cube deals acid damage to anything it vores. Get used to it. There's gonna be a lot of vor jokes.
I'm stuck in Lugia's stomach alone.
Yeah. Literally brainless magical Roomba. That is our poster boy for oozes. We'll figure out how this ended up as a gaming stable, but now I want to talk about slightly more compelling Slime Time lives. Number B, Obelix.
Number B. But yes, the Ublex, which, fun fact, was created by a Make-A-Wish kid, if I remember correctly. Or was it a... I'm pretty sure it was a Make-A-Wish kid. Can't remember 100%, but it was a kid that came in and got to design their own monster. For some reason or another. And they made this thing.
Okay, now we're cooking. The Oblex is not a poster boy. As a matter of fact, I feel like this is going to be the first time you hear about it for a lot of you. And yet it's kind of like the coolest slime we have. The first thing that distinguishes these guys from all the other jellies and puddings, yes, those are real names of D&D oozes, is that the Oblex is intelligent. Oblex were made by, of all things, mind flayers. It is getting dangerously close to a wizard did it. They were made as like a mind flayer's version of a bloodhound. Sure, whatever. Why should similes make sense to anyone other than me? An Oblex helps mind flayers track creatures. Mind flayers want brains. Those are the creatures that they're trying to track, like thinking creatures. How? Well, because Oblex feed on memories. It's very Kingdom Hearts of them.
A scattered dream that's like a far-off memory.
I want to line the pieces up. Gloop and Gak. Oblex are smart, yes, but they are smart in a way that an ooze would be, which makes them more fun. They still have that amoeba coding to them, that instinct-driven, not even animal behavior. They consume memories, as I said. That is the reason why they're intelligent, and that's also why they attack spellcasters specifically. They're interested in smart brains more than anything.
But yeah, no, Ublex are an interesting one because you're able to actually, like, this is one of the few instances of a slime-type creature where you're able to really, like, put an entire campaign or like at least arc of a campaign to be around this thing, because what they do is they eat people and then become those people, and they become kind of like a hive mind jelly and just kind of like use memories that they had in order to just kind of keep living their day to day. Also, I want to double check my my sources on this one. I'm going to be pedantic now. Yeah, it was a Make-A-Wish Foundation. Okay. The Ublex, a terrifying ooze monster introduced in Mordekainen's Tome of Foes in 2018, was designed by Nolan Whale. Nolan created the creature as part of the Make-A-Wish Foundation program, visiting Wizards of the Coast to develop the monster with the D&D kit, D&D team. Yeah. So, yeah, it was a Make-A-Wish monster, and it's one of the most terrifying, unique monsters of D&D, in my personal opinion. As real cool. I like the Ublex. I surprisingly have not been able to use one in a campaign just yet.
Students are quaking, and because they absorb so many smarty pants, they actually become really scary predators. Like, they become smart themselves. The Oblex is one of the few D&D creatures I find actually scary as like a concept. What they do is they actually like extend one of their pseudophides into the form of a person. Like, imagine like a little tendril that like then grows into the shape of a person. It is a perfect replica of someone that the Oblex has previously absorbed. The only tell that you're dealing with an Oblex is that it's connected by that pseudopod to the Oblex by like a long, thin, transparent tendril. That and the smell of rotten eggs. I mean, it says sulfur, but that's what sulfur smells like. Cauliflower farts. Guess the Oblex better pick some stinkers to not give itself away. Anyway, just the thought of something transforming into someone you love and trust. The dawning realization that not only were
the Ublex is the Make-A-Wish monster? Yes, it is.
You're speaking to a copy of someone you trusted, but that person is dead because they have to be in order for this copy to exist. It's disgusting, like really scary, really cool, but really scary. And the fact that it has tells like baked into the design of the monster, it's so cool. It's like an actual horror monster. It's D&D's The Thing, like from the movie The Thing.
No, it legitimately is The Thing. Same idea too. It eats you, consolidates you as a person into its being, and then creates a copy of you in order to lure in more. It's fucked up, and I love it so much. Oh god, that was the Ditto scene from Detective Peach. That's what it's from. I thought it was from Doctor Who for some reason.
It's so D&D's The Thing that it's scared of fire in what I assume is a literal reference to The Thing. D&D designers, comment below. They will never do that. They would.
They will never. Wait, what are we commenting?
A literal reference to The Thing. D&D designers, comment below. They will never do that. Be The Thing. It's so
D&D, like the actual D&D designers. Okay, fair
D&D's The Thing that it's scared of fire in what I assume is a literal reference to The Thing. D&D designers, comment below. They will never do that. They would just never do that. Oh, what's that? Really?
Mind flayers unleash all manner of foul experiments upon the planes with little thought of the for the consequences. Here, though, I suspect another influence. Jublex from Mordenkainen. Ah, yeah. Here we go. Back to Jublex. Didn't the thing infect people's blood and replace them slowly from the inside out? Kinda, and it wasn't really slow. All you needed was like one piece of the monster, and it would take you over. Yeah, the thing was insidious. Once it started, you're fucked. And here I thought it was wholesome. Oh no, it was still wholesome, but the actual use of the monster fucked up. The thing could also choose who to infect. True, it just chose to always infect.
The DreamWorks eyebrow man also thinks it is connected to Jublex. I wanted to talk about plasmoids. I guess it's a monster video. Oh, God. Fine, whatever. We'll talk about him. No.
Yeah, the plasmoids are only really a thing because it made sense for them to have like a little slime boy in what's it called? Spelljammer. That's it. Yeah, it just made sense to have like a alien goo person as a race in Spelljammer, so they added it in. For the most part, yeah, they weren't that uber popular. I love plasmoids. Plasmoids are great. Yeah, I agree. But they're not super popular. Slimes are a D&D monster. Just straight up.
Number C, Jublex, I guess. We've talked about this guy before in my demon video, because this guy is a demon, and not just any demon, a demon lord. And not just any demon lord, a demon prince. Demon princes are... Okay, so there's this weird halfway point between very important person in a given plane and God. In the Feywild, this is the Archfey. In the Hells, this is the Archdevils. And in the Abyss, it's the Demon Princes. They are not gods, per se. Exceptions do apply, but they're not gods. And Jublex is the not god of oozes. And also, shapeless things, which sounds like a reed. God of Hogbody. This whole...
So, yeah. Jublex, the Lord of Oozes, the Demon Prince of Slimes and Oozes. One of the most vile creatures in existence. It's a demon, not even not a devil, it's a demon. Meaning it's all about chaos and just doing whatever the fuck it wants. Jublex. With a J.
Not god, but kind of god thing is not helped by the fact that he makes oozes. Like, he has the power to create them if we trust Iggy Azalea. And even if we don't trust her, and we shouldn't, we know that Jublex's presence, like literally him being present, awakens oozes. Meet Glabagool. Yes, really. Glabagool.
Little Glabagool.
Is the news that awoke when Jublex went on a Dubai trip or whatever. I haven't played Out of the Abyss. And Glabagool looks like he's called that. Finally, the Italian rep we've been waiting for. There are a few things that are more...
So, yeah. An intelligent gelatinous cube.
more godlike than like literally being able to birth members of your chosen species and also awaken them into sentience by your own presence. And despite all this, Jublex is sort of like the ugly duckling of the demon lords and the demon princes. And let me emphasize, ugly. Let's emphasize it a little bit more. Let's emphasize it a lot more. Hideous.
Well, he's a slime. Literally the trash compactor of the monster universe, right? He doesn't care about what he looks like. Let's be perfectly honest, he doesn't. And he's calling this guy hideous in the line of demon princes, where we have the fucking Demogorgon as an example. No, not the Stranger Things one. The Demogorgon. The baboon lizard thing. 2 heads.
Perfect. Yeah, apparently all demon princes just, they f***ing hate this guy. And from what I can't see, it's mostly because he's ugly. Friendly reminder that this is also a demon lord, just to give you some...
That was Orcus.
context as to how ugly you actually have to be to get judged by the demon princes, like based on your looks. Juiblex is just sort of a soup of bad gathered into a veiny membrane of awful, like a demonic haggis with like a sprinkling of like eyes and mouths in there. It's bad. It's really bad. It's bad. And so Juiblex is relentlessly bullied and not invited to sit at the popular kids table in the abyss where my demons lie. Or that
That got a little crunchy.
That is until a group of misfit adventurers makes a bet to make a pact with Juiblex. Now, their new warlock patron has tasked them with a makeover, so that Juiblex can finally become the demon king, queen, monarch, and prove all those preppy stuck-up demons wrong by ruling the world by reducing it to nothing. Or at least that would be the plot if I ever end up running an evil campaign. Why? Why should all evil campaigns be edgy? It doesn't say they have to be. Yeah. Why can't they be about demonic makeovers and 2000s teen comedies? You guys are not
Evil campaign where the entire idea is to try and give Juiblex a makeover so he wouldn't be bullied by the other demon princes. I kind of love that. I love that so much. Stop with the nostalgia. No. All nostalgia, all the time.
Fun. I wasn't joking about reducing the world to nothing, though. That is 100% what Juiblex is trying to do. He wants to weaponize his demonic acid reflux to dissolve existence itself, covering everything in all planes with itself, with Juiblex, melting all of creation into nothingness. Why? Well, the other demon lords call Juiblex the Lord of Nothing, like to make fun of him. So Juiblex wants to turn everything.
Oh, you want to say that I'm the Lord of Nothing? I don't cover anything. I don't control anything. I'm the Lord of Nothing. Fine. Then there will be nothing left.
Into nothing, so that by being the Lord of Nothing, he becomes the Lord of Everything. Here's when I tell you that Juiblex is one of the most calculating and shrewd demon princes. Really? As exemplified by his use of irony. And that has sort of been a through line, right? The Oblex is good because it's an intelligent ooze. Juiblex is the lord of all oozes, and he's one of the most intelligent ones out of all the demon lords. We even have Glabagul as an example of an intelligent gelatinous cube. Mamma mia. There's something there. And I've been laying the bricks leading towards it. But before we skip down those bricks, we still have a question to answer. How did the ooze become so impossibly influential in the fantasy genre, especially in fantasy video games? And how did they do that while also being mostly ignored in the game that birthed them? Let's find.
Because they are iconic. They have no matter what genre of game or universe you put them in, a slime fits. It just fits. Because it's a scavenger. Like scavenger, it's a easy, early creature. It can be powerful and terrifying, but it just fits for some reason. But let's see what he says.
Finally answer those questions. Part 2. Leaving a snail trail through fantasy. How the ooze got its groove. So I've been referring to this idea that oozes have become part of the fantasy genre in gaming after D&D introduced them in polite society. And if you don't have unconventional taste, Anastasias, you might not know what I'm referring to, so let me spell it out for you. The gelatinous cube was the first, and as I said, it was part of D&D since D&D became a thing of any note. And ever since, we've seen a deluge of oozes. The first one that comes to mind to me is the slime in Dragon Quest. Let's see how many.
It's not me! Yeah, I'm tiny. I understand. They merge into Ultras, the Ultra Slime!
Time to say Dragon Age out of pure brain rot.
Thank you! I did that earlier! Oh my god, thank you! Thank you! You gave me hope, my friend, my buddy, my boy, my hat, my Batman.
I literally typed it in the script by mistake before correcting it, so wish me luck. Dragon Age is no!
Yay! Vindication!
Dragon Quest slime is literally the mascot for the series, and Dragon Quest is an extremely influential entry in the RPG genre. Yes, this is more true in the East than in the West, sure, but still, Dragon Quest has shut down a country before with its release dates. Is this an exaggeration? Well, yes, but this is YouTube, so I gotta do that before I tell you what actually happened. In 1988, the US meddling into the Japanese semiconductor market, yes, really, meant that not enough cartridges of Dragon Quest III would be produced, which was said to be the biggest release ever over there, which in turn meant that people lined up in droves to get the very few cartridges that would be available. According to this article by Andrew James for GameKatsu, business reported a 13% increase on people calling sick to work. Around 500 students were arrested for breaking curfew. Apparently, Japan has curfews for
Japan's under 17 curfew, what families should know when traveling. Japan is often praised as one of the most kid-friendly travel destinations in the world. From priority airport lines for families to stroller-friendly public transport and incredible children facilities. The country offers countless conveniences for parents traveling with little ones. But even in a destination this accommodating, there are a few important things to know, especially when it comes to Japan's curfew laws for minors.
Minors? The more you know. Police were called several times as violence erupted in the lines to get the game, and there was just a baby bit of mayhem and chaos as the Japanese tried to get their hands on the limited copies of Dragon Quest III. So, Dragon Quest is a pretty big deal, and it does have an ooze as its mascot. But where do I get off attributing that to our humble Jello cube? Is it just because the cube was created earlier? No, actually. It's because Dragon Quest is based on D&D. I mean, not directly, but it is. Its creator has explicitly stated that he was particularly inspired by wizardry. And wizardry is literally the first video game incarnation of D&D. Baldur's Gate ran because wizardry waddled. Listen, it was 1981. This was impressive at the time. We were in the trenches. And guess what wizardry had? That's right. Wizardry had bleep.
A strange animal. Armor class 0? Oh my god, that's actually pretty high. So earlier iterations of D&D, by the way, used Thaco for their armor and to hit, which means pretty much the lower your AC, the better your AC. So there were actually like instances of creatures having negative armor class. And that was extremely good. Like, let me see if I can pull something up. Ancient Red Dragon stats D&D first edition. I hate Thaco so much. It wasn't too bad when I figured it out, when I played it with it once. I can't remember how to do it anymore. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so an Ancient Red Dragon had an armor class of -1. Yeah, you needed a chart in order to hand it up. I mean, it's like the multiplication tables. Once you have like a good portion of it memorized, it's easier to kind of figure it out and do the math, but yeah, it's still rough.
But less importantly, Wizardry also had all the greatest hits of now that's what I call oozes. Slime is here. Bubbling slime is here. Motherfucking creeping crud is here.
Oh
Jason Cipriano interviewed Yuji Horii, the actual creator of Dragon Quest, for MTV. Yes, really. And according to that interview, Yuji Horii was I
was really hooked on Wizardry, the PC game, and that's kind of where I got the inspiration for the slime. There's slime-looking characters in Wizardry, so I got the inspiration from it. I was doodling the slime-looking characters, and I took it to Mr. Toriyama, who did the character design, and he made the slime we see today. Nice!
massive fan of Wizardry. Somehow, Wizardry worked about 10 times better in Japan than it did in the West, for reasons we don't have time to get into, and Yuji Horii was so into Wizardry that he wanted to add the slimes present in that game, the D&D video game, into his own baby, Dragon Quest. And thanks to some Akira Toriyama magic, yes, that Akira Toriyama, we got the...
That's why that always confused me when I was a kid, because I was like, why do these characters look like they're from Dragon Ball Z? And that's the reason why. Made by the same dude.
Slime. So the ooze is responsible for one of gaming's most recognizable mascots, but this is just the tip of the melting iceberg. Final Fantasy, another series extremely influenced by D&D and Wizardry to the point where it just straight up stole the actual D&D names of monsters and their appearance, also added slimes based on the D&D ones. How based? Well, have you ever wondered why you fight puddings in Final Fantasy? Well, because you fight them in D&D. D&D has puddings and jellies, and Final Fantasy said, can I copy your homework? I'll change it a little bit, except it didn't. It just copied it. So now we have all of these.
Well, they added flans in, I think.
Need I go on? Fine, I will. This influence in gaming that started in D&D can be traced directly to gaming icons such as Grimer and Come Backwards.
Yes, I am an icon. That's me on your t-shirt.
All the way to a whole-ass anime about slimes. A decently popular one, too. I was like...
It was actually pretty fun. Goofy, but fun. And also, once again, into the VTuber sphere. Hi!
3 episodes of this for this video. I'm just generally done with isekai. I need like something else, like a new take. Okay, so with that, we've talked anime, we've talked gaming, we've talked short novels, comics, and we've definitely talked tabletop a whole lot. And that's because these things coexist and influence one another. I'd be shocked if you, the girl watching this, are not a fan of several...
I am not. I am a he slime.
Several things I just listed alongside D&D. Everyone is sort of this fan constellation, and there's something magical when the stars of your interest interact and have an open conversation and share stuff with one another, and there's something even more magical when you meet people that share some of those interest stars.
Can I actually... Okay, so Pokemon, Warhammer. Not actually sure who these are. Maybe it has something to do with D&D. This might be like their D&D characters. I don't know. Kirby, One Piece.
Is with you. For most of us, this happens never, except for conventions. More specifically, Fan Fusion. Fan Fusion has contacted me to talk about Fan Fusion, literally one of the biggest fan conventions. 131,540 attendees in 2025, big. And in 2026, it's gonna be even bigger. And I didn't mean what I said with all that poetic constellation kumbaya stuff. Here's some, not all, not nearly all of the events that will be going on at Fan Fusion this year. Of course, tabletop everything, duh. It's literally called Tabletopia, and it has stuff from D&D to board games to mini painting. Mini painting is the chillest thing to do at a con, by the way. Highly recommend. But also custom-built Mario Kart racing simulators, cosplay contests, which are one of my favorite things to go watch at any con, a whole section dedicated to arcade gaming with like actual arcades, a massive amount of comics content, and wrestling. They have a whole wrestling thing going on, Slam Fusion Wrestling. Like you can go watch wrestling at a con. Was this the thing I was the most excited to talk about? You can't prove that. Fan Fusion.
Come on, Slimes are great. What are you talking about? That's cool. Rip Toriyama the GOAT. Agreed. Toriyama was an amazing mangaka and creator, and I've heard nothing negative about Toriyama. Great man.
Has a ton of options for passes, from full event passes to daily passes to a platinum VIP option that seems to include the best possible con experience one can ask for, and any pass gives you access to most of these events. So if meeting with fellow nerds and getting access to so many events sounds good, passes are available for sale right now, like now. You can find them in the very first link in the description.
Nice.
Anyway, we've looked at a lot of oozes influenced by D&D. I've proven my point enough. All of it stems from what do you mean how do dungeons stay clean? The oozes of D&D have been repurposed, iterated on, and carved a niche for themselves in the gaming landscape. And yet, they just haven't left much of an impression in the game that literally birthed them. Why? And more importantly, how can we fix that? Part 3, Slime Tutorial. Why nobody cares about the cube and how to make them.
I care about the cube.
Let's look at some popular D&D monsters, shall we? We got Beholders, egomaniacal masterminds with delusions of grandeur wrecked by paranoia, mind flayers, psychic overlord leaders of that once galaxy-wide empire that take over the bodies of mortals to reproduce and take back their place as the leaders of existence with their massive wrinkly brains, liches, genius arch-wizards that studied the arcane to conquer death and achieve immortality through undeath thanks to their studies, dragons, impossibly powerful and immortal creatures with an intellect that often surpasses that of any mortal. Pause. Do you see the pattern? Monster in D&D is a different word for antagonist, and intelligence is often a very threatening quality for your antagonist to have. The type...
Well, that basically means that they have plans, they have directives. If you have a creature that is wholly intelligent and driven purely by raw instinct, they can't run away, they don't have like a reason for doing things. All they want to do is just eat. All they want to do is eat. So they just shuffle forward, consuming, and then they can easily be defeated. Because they're not going to just run away. Whereas an antagonist, after you get a few good hits in, they'll probably be like, peace, and then just kind of run away. Or they'll be like, this did not go to a plan. I shall put this into my calculations for later. Good job, heroes. You can now deal with this giant creature I found in the backyard. Have a manticore, and then they kind of run away. You can do that sort of shit with a smart enemy. Slimes, a whole heck of a lot.
The type of monster that can carry a campaign is the type of monster that is hard to outsmart. The type of villain that can plot and scheme, and one whose plots and schemes you can foil with effort. The one exception to this is the Tarrasque, which gets here by being
D&D Godzilla, and yes, that's cool, but a Tarrasque is a thing that your villain unleashes, not a...
Yeah, the Tarrasque is a thing that is just, it is there, and it is something to be stopped. It is not, and you can have an entire like campaign built around stopping it, but it's not an antagonist. There are going to be things in the way that will be the antagonists, but it won't be the overarching villain.
Thing you spend your campaign trying to stop from taking over the world, because it can't. It's stupid. It's an agent of destruction. And guess what? As of 2024, oozes have their own Tarrasque, so it's not that. That's not what will fix it. Oozes, on the other hand, are brainless. Like literally, no brain, no thoughts, head empty, and also no head.
So no head?
But guess
That was a very satisfying smash.
what? They don't have to be. This is not me saying it. They literally don't have to be stupid. Obelix, what is to me and to many the coolest ooze, is intelligent. Monster jellies are intelligent. Juiblex, granddad of all oozes, is once again one of the smartest demon princes. But giving intelligence to oozes strip them of what makes them unique, right? No. First of all, I'm not advocating for all gelatinous cubes to get their PhD or be Glabagool. Rather, I am saying that the creature type is lacking a flagship monster. A monster you can base a campaign around. Or, at the very least, an arc. Something along the lines of Beholders. Something along the lines of Sphinxes now in the newest version of D&D. And that monster needs to be intelligent, but it needs to be intelligent in a way only an ooze can be. The Obelix accomplishes this, and maybe the Obelix could become the flagship in time. It's pretty new, but there is more needed than intelligence to make a flagship monster sing. The second thing I think is behind the lack of impact of oozes in D&D, other than intelligence, is pretty simple. It's so simple, in fact, that you might think I'm crazy. It's a face. What was Akira Toriyama's addition to the concept of slime? That's right, a face. The Dragon Quest slime became iconic, not because it's shaped like a drop of water, sorry to the drop of water fandom. No, it became iconic because it...
Fuck you, man. My drop of water is cool. Don't have to be stupid. I would say take free, for example, but hey! I don't understand what you mean. No, seriously, I'm lost. Am I missing something?
Has a face. Fun fact, you might not know this, but D&D is predominantly played by humans, I'm told. And humans are
Debatable.
wired to recognize, attach to, and prioritize faces. Lacking a face is a pretty big hit against the popularity of any monster. Look how expressive they draw beholders in D&D. They know this. You can see this in effect every single time Pokemon releases what people have dubbed Object Mons. It's these guys that get the Pokemon is running out of ideas, even if there were plenty of Object Mons.
Uh-huh. Yeah, like the vanilla ice cream Pokemon thing, Vanillite and Vanillish and Vanillux. Like, they're actually very interesting designs. I just think they're goofy, because, and most people think that they're goofy because it's literally an ice cream cone made into a Pokemon. But they're still cool. They're still interesting designs. They're just weird. Whereas, once again, this was Gen 1. And it's not much more detailed than a Charmander. Let's be perfectly honest, okay? Literally a circle with a face. Hey, that's me.
In the originals, and I don't think it's a coincidence that these guys also often have the most obscured, hard to read as faces out of all the...
I love this one so much. If y'all are mean to my flower, I'll hit you with a broom. I will not say what I'm thinking right now.
Pikachus. And that certainly does not help with their popularity. We give faces to robots for this reason. Even if given enough time, you lot will pack one with a Roomba.
Yay! It's me, guys! It's me! Just a cute little fella. Just a cute little dungeon Roomba. It's me! I'll fight for ice cream even if it's the ice cream I'm fighting. Oh, fair enough.
So, why are we so attached to faces? Why does our flagship ooze need it if we want it to soar? Well, because a face is how we communicate, and more importantly, how we read the emotions of others. As gaming's pariah David de Grutola would say, emotion is extremely important for a villain. Beholders are paranoid, mind flayers are megalomaniacal, liches are terrified of death. Emotions are the source of the strongest motivations. So,
yes, and that's why, that's why when you do character design, you always want to focus fire on, the face. You want to make sure that your face isn't being drowned out by literally everything else going on. If anything, you want every element of your character design to almost push your gaze upwards towards your face. It's an important feature. Hell, Look at him. Pointy hat. He's literally a hat with an eye. Still has a face. And he can actually emote quite a bit with just that one eyeball. The focal point must be the face. Doesn't have to be the face, but you're better off if you do make it the face, especially if it's supposed to be like a Vtube model. Because once again, that's the thing that most people are going to be looking at, is the Vtube model, the face. They're going to be zoomed in right at the face point. We all want to emo for the win. Exactly.
Much like it needs to be intelligent in a way that an ooze would be, in order to still feel like an ooze, it needs to feel emotion in a way that an ooze would. Whatever that.
But yeah, even Flubber technically has itself a face. It doesn't seem like it quite often, but whenever it gets into its like emotive looks, it actually forms its body to look like it has like a little head at the very top with little arms to make it look like it has a person, like a personality to it or some sort of humanization to it, even though it doesn't make sense for it to do that.
That means. The third and last ingredient, which is maybe even dumber than the face one, is family. Ohana, if you will. What do I even mean by this? Variance is one.
Yeah, I'm a little confused on this one. Ooh. EP slime. Sorry about that.
Of the keys to popularity. D&D is a game where you can make anything. And because you can make anything, you need modularity. You need Lego pieces to build your very specific story. So if you're given the Obelix, and just the Obelix, it doesn't feel like you have many or any choices. But
you got lots of choices. Honestly, you could actually start the campaign, right? You could start the campaign at level 1, and the Obelix is the BBEG. And they start small. A tiny, tiny slime that has gained some sort of sentience and found itself in a goblin cave. And it starts eating and devouring the entire goblin cave and creating its own little goblin army to hide behind. Sends them out on raids in order to lead adventurers back because it wants to get more intelligence. It wants to get more people. And then once it kills the adventurers, it starts eating them. And then starts to amass that more knowledge. Keeps the little goblin army going, but only so that it uses that at the front. When the party finally comes in there, takes out the goblins, they're all finding like these weird little strands of goo everywhere until they finally find the low CR Obelix in the cave. The Obelix finds out, shit, the jig is up, and it tries to escape into like a little hole in the wall. You get to do a little bit of damage to it, it does a little bit of fighting and a bunch of fun stuff and all that, it goes off. A little bit later, you come up to a bandit camp. And you're noticing very familiar veins running through the bandit camp. Suddenly, you have an Obelix who has done the same thing he did with the goblins, but with a bandit camp instead. And you can just do that for the entire thing, and up until, like, the Obelix devoured a fucking god or something like that. You need a different monster for different stories. True. You can't use the Obelix for every story. I mean, you kind of can. That's what a BBEG is. Yeah, somewhat. It really depends on what you're doing with them. I think you can do it with the Obelix, but you can't do that with other slimes.
Let's look at beholders once again. Beholders literally have beholderkin. There are so many of these guys. Hags have so many granny variants in their crochet club of evil. Dragons? I don't even want to talk about how many dragons there are. The monster manual got this, which is why we have gotten variants for basically every single monster in the 2024 edition of the manual. Hell, we have a ton of variants for oozes. They're all like color based, but still, even Obelix have the spawn, the adult, and the elder variant to cover for CR needs, but not flavor ones. So intelligence, emotion, and family are the ingredients for our little
emotion
slime making experiment. And guess what? I have the results. You know how much I love grabbing from mythology and especially history. It makes homebrew anything so grounded to me. And with that in mind, have you heard of the 4 humors?
I'm about to find out. I have heard of this, but I'm having a hard time placing the info.
The reason I've been puking all night is because my hot and cold humors are out of balance.
No, they have nothing to do with like jokey jokes, hee hee ha ha, but rather medicine, humor as in mood, not George Carlin. Humorism was codified into what we understand today in ancient Greece. Hippocrates was the one that described the 4 humans that make up humorism as we know it now. The basic theory is that the human body has 4 liquids that each correspond to 4 temperaments, and a healthy person had all 4 humors balanced, as in a balanced amount of these 4 liquids. If you had a deficit of one and a surplus of another, not only will you be unhealthy, you will also be too temperamental, as in you would be too angry or too sad or too happy, like mania. Basically, this theory linked both physical illnesses and personality traits and mental illnesses to the percentage of these 4 liquids in
blood, yellow bile, phlegm, and black bile. So sanguine, colic, phlegmatic, and melancholic. Interesting.
someone's body. Do you have cancer? Well, it's probably because of all that black bile in you. Depressed? Also black bile. You really did not want to be a black bile kind of gal. Yes, this sounds stupid and archaic to us, but people today will be like, I love measles. So have we really changed that much? Anyway,
yeah.
Why am I telling you this? You don't see it? Isn't this exactly what we're looking for? Liquids associated with someone's mood, associated with people themselves, with 4 distinct variants for you to play with. It's perfect as a source of inspiration for an ooze. Since humorism has 2 biles already, and oozes tend to have a similar naming scheme of adjective plus vaguely flabber noun, let's call these guys biles. I love thinking about how medicine would evolve in a fantasy world, so what if it's doctors studying these? What about wizard doctors?
Wizard did it! A wizard did it!
What a shame that there is no
foreshadowing for later in the year. Uh-oh.
Healing wizard, right? Anyway, maybe there are theories out there about these bile oozes being produced when inherently magical beings experience prolonged strong emotions, like dragons, fae, but also stuff like sorcerers, warlocks, people whose mortal bodies are literally not made to house that amount of power. Chronic states of an emotion associated with the 4 humors make it so that these biles literally
what the hell was going on with Homer there?
Ooze out of the people experiencing these prolonged states of emotion, and each of these biles is widely different and embodies a different temperament, but also completely different abilities. Sanguine biles could be excitable, friendly, and could even be called—
oh yeah, by the way, he does all his own arts and everything like that. Like, he's a very good very good artist. Very good at what he does.
peppy. Maybe they have healing properties on account of it being like the best humor. But prolonged exposure to their influence causes mania. Yellow biles are mercurial, prone to big mood swings, although they always have a penchant for aggression. Basically, imagine Flubber with a short fuse. They have had
Flubber with a short fuse. For some reason, my brain just goes straight to the end scene where he shoots out the guy's butt.
in times of war as like literal motivators for troops, but prolonged exposure to them causes hypertension and can inflict like a rage-like status. Black biles are these slow, calm, and sad oozes. They carry a constant melancholy within them, and this is reflected on—
look at the little buddy. Looks so eepy and done with everything.
Others that are exposed to black biles for too long. It's depression soup.
Yellow bile is piss? Does that mean they are pissy? Hi, Darby. How you doing? We're learning about slimes. Speaking of slimes, we got another slime in chat.
And finally, phlegmatic biles are introverted. They're the smartest of the 4 biles and the least emotional of these emotion—
Look at this little dick. I love him so much. It's totally not because we might, have a few similarities, right? Just a few similarities, maybe? Huh? Maybe? That's my cousin Richard. Exactly!
based beings, which means that prolonged exposure to phlegmatic biles causes apathy. Biles are dangerous because their primary objective as oozes is to feed on their associated emotion, but their intrinsic ties to our bodies mean that their secondary effects—
he looks like he wants to talk about your car's extended warranty. I hate him. It's true.
—are felt much more strongly and personally than that of any slimes. Gelatinous cubes will burn a square hole through your hardwood floors. Sure, that sucks. But a sanguine bile living in your walls will drive you into literal mania. And then what? Then you ooze more sanguine bile.
in a very ooze twist, they just want to grow. There are those that believe that perceived differences between cultures are the literal result of impossibly powerful, impossibly large bios that live under entire cities, affecting their mood enough to grow, but not enough to arouse suspicion. What's more, imagine the wizards that discover them. You might have noticed this, and this is literally borrowed from humorism, but these four counteract one another. Just like doctors keep leeches to drain patients, magical medics keep biles to cure sicknesses of the body and the mind. In literal small doses, biles can heal the sick. Red biles are used to treat depression, whereas black biles are used to treat mania. Yellow biles are used to treat apathy, whereas phlegmatic biles can treat mood swings. Okay, is this anything? Is this cool?
I kind of like it. Doesn't give me like BDEG kind of vibes, but it definitely fits the idea that you were going for with wanting more. But yeah, it fits that more like more variant kind of feel. While it feels like it's more along the lines of like people took slimes and then interjected their own kind of like work into them in order to, you know, make them more useful for their world. Sort of idea. It's good for like world building. Yeah, exactly that.
Cool? Legit, I'm asking. This is probably the most me twist I've ever done. I always try to make something that I can see people liking, but this one is so weird. I legit don't know if y'all will dig this. If you do, spread it around because I have no clue how this will do. But what's in it for you? Well, the Sanguine Bile stat block.
I'm doing my best, man. I'm doing my best.
Of course. I envision each of them having completely different stat blocks and wildly different yet related abilities, and I would love to do tons of variants depending on size, maybe mixing mechanics, but the human familiar is very busy moving or whatever, and I am completely swamped with work on Wild Hearth. More about that coming next video, by the way. So, the Sanguine Bile stat block, available to all of you for 100% certified free, is in the description below, and that will have to suffice. But if this extremely weird twist is for you, other than share it around, might I suggest the weirdest fiend type. My video
Yugoloths, yes. And that, my friends, is Slimes by the Pointy Hat. And we got ourselves a whole new set of monsters. And like you said, in the description, right here, you can get the Sanguine Bile right here. Guys, go make sure you're following this wonderful little bean. Great content creator, great designer, makes so much content for D&D, and it's all free. It's all free. He does have his own book, but everything you can get in his book, he has on his YouTube channel, and just does so much good stuff. Anyway, ow. What? Hey, did you enjoy that? Was it funny? Well, come and check it out live over on twitch.tv/freeform_art. Make sure you put the _art. We have lots of fun there. We enjoy ourselves, and we want to see you over there. So come on and hang out. See you in a bit.